Welcome back, guys, to my garden. In this video, things are going to be looking a little bit different from the previous garden tour. I actually filmed this video in fall of 2021, and it's basically a green bean harvest video. So you could see here the green beans. This is the yard-long bean variety. It's actually a shorter variety. There's longer ones, but this one's only like about 8 to 10 inches long. And it's so prolific. It's green and it's speckled with these like red stripes on it. It has like these red speckled spots. Here you could see the difference in size as it grows. So on the left is the a lot younger, and then on the right is all the way when it's maybe even a little bit too mature to eat as a green bean. But it's very prolific plant. I grow it right through the middle of summer. It's said to be a bush variety, but it definitely likes to vine. You could grow it without a trellis, but if you had a trellis, it would make it easier to harvest because they do kind of go all over each other. There you could see the Lago spinach flowers. They're so beautiful. And this is Salanova butterleaf lettuce, and to its right is the Salanova green sweet crisp. And this is Queensland lettuce. It does very well also in the heat. All of these varieties do. And this is, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I think it's called Coreopsis flower, and it's a native to Florida. I think these are cucumber seeds, or yeah, I think so. So here I am just harvesting green beans. I'm actually going to be pulling out all of these green beans here. I'm going to be pulling out all those plants out because they're done. They've produced a lot. So I picked what I could, and now I'm going to be just taking out all these plants. I actually have seeds for sale of these green beans on my site if you're interested in growing them now in the summer here in Florida. I really recommend them. I have tons of frozen bags of green beans from last year, and we haven't even eaten them all. They're really prolific. So I'm just going to be cutting up all the plants, taking everything out so that I can plant something else in here. And I need to go through the green bean, like all this stuff that I just pulled out. I need to go through it and pick out the good green beans. I find it easier to do that than go through the pile and pick all the green beans first. I picked some of them, but a lot of them are like kind of hard to reach because it did grow all over the place. And that's my dog Sultan. I love him. He's an Australian Shepherd and very loyal, always with me in the garden. And here I am cleaning up the green beans off the Lago spinach. This plant grows beautiful flowers. It's an edible green, but I generally don't eat the greens. They just have beautiful flowers. And here's Sultan again. And the Lago spinach does really well. You could put it in like your flower arrangements inside your house. It literally lasts like a ton of days before it goes bad, and they grow right through the summer. I love finding things that grow through the summer here because not that many things do. So here I am. I'm just gonna be sorting the green beans. So I'm getting like the thinner ones that are still young that I can use them for eating like a green bean, and then I'm setting aside the ones that are too thick. And those that are too thick, I'm actually gonna be like shelling the peas out of it. I whistled at him here. And here we have the whole gigantic pile of green bean leaves. And I'm just going to be composting this. I don't even like chop it up. I just throw it all into my compost pot. For my compost pot, I like using just it's like this metal like fencing material, and just turn it into like a cylinder, put it in a circle, and just pile it all up in there. And I like it because it has a lot of airflow, and if rats get in it, which inevitably they always do, they just like can climb out easy. Whereas I feel like if it's something that has like a lid, then when you open it, the rats can come out at you, which is very scary. And here I am. I'm gonna be shelling these. So this is not like a fresh shelling bean. These are more like a pea, like green peas. I think I'm not sure what stage you harvest peas, but I would say this is more similar in texture to like a pea, and I would use it as a pea. And yeah, it's really time consuming. You have to like peel off this little thing, which you're gonna see right now. I'm gonna peel it off, and that helps you like split it in half, and then you could just run your finger and get all those little seeds out. These are immature seeds, so if you let these dry out, they wouldn't grow anything. This is really time consuming. It's not something I would generally do, especially like if you have something that's grown intentionally like as a pea, then it's easier to shell, but these are not, so it's a little bit harder to shell. They're not meant for this, but you can do it. Instead of throwing out all these pods, I can get another food source out of it. They're pretty good. I normally just like, you could just boil them and then strain them, and I froze a bunch, and you could add them to things. And here are the little like peelings the little thing I like peel off, and it gets like really curly. It looks funny. And here they are, ready to go, ready to be washed and frozen or eaten. And then here you could see this is like a more mature pod. Like this, the seed is fully developed here. You see it's lost its green color. All that's left is for it to dry, and then you could plant these seeds, or you can eat them just like this and cook them up as a fresh shelling bean. And then here I'm going to be washing the peas. So there's like all this gunk in it, like from the inside of the pod. I don't really like to like put it in the strainer and just put water over it. I like to put it submerged in water and shake it around to like release all those things and let them stay in the water, and then I'll just scoop out the seeds, and that's what I'll keep. Because if you put them in the strainer and just put water on them, you're going to be left with all those pieces. And these green beans, I'm going to be giving them a quick wash because I'm going to be fermenting them. That's what I'm going to be doing with these. You can also chop them up and freeze them or can them or pickle them, but I'm going to be fermenting them. So to ferment them, I need oak leaves, and I'm going to get garlic chives. Those are the garlic chive flowers, and these are the garlic chives. They're so prolific. They grow so well here. I've had them for years, and they're just this perennial patch. They never die back in South Florida, and they always look really good. So to harvest it, I like cut it maybe like a half an inch, like a quarter to a half an inch above the ground, so that allows it to like regrow like really green. Instead of just like pulling off leaves, you want to like prune and harvest. And this goes for a lot of different things. You're gonna see when you're harvesting things, it's better to like prune and harvest at the same time instead of just pulling off random leaves wherever you need them. And I just take off the outer leaves to clean it up. Some of the outer leaves are still good, but a lot of times they're like half green, half yellow. So it's easier just to like pull them off, and it is what it is. I mean, if you had a small amount of greens of the garlic chives, then you could sit through it and pick it. But I have so many that I have no need to, pick through the bad stuff. This is Cuban oregano. Also does really, really well here. And again, you see how I break off the branch? I'm like pruning and harvesting. I'm not just like pulling the leaves off. And here I'm going to be chopping up these green beans into good size pieces, like bite size, I guess, for our ferment. Fermentation is such a good way to preserve things. It's really quick and easy, and especially if you don't have like a ton of stuff to do a big canning project, you could just do, your fermentation project, and you don't need that much produce to do it. I normally just cut off the ends and then just rough chop it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just so that they're all a good bite size. And they're absolutely beautiful, these green beans. They're going to lose their color if you cook them. They're not going to stay with that those stripes, but in the fermentation too, they lost their color. And I'm also going to be adding garlic. I didn't grow this garlic, but that's okay. I'm going to be adding it anyways. So when you're fermenting, you really don't want to, like, most of the time, at least my preference is to not chop up things really small, because right now if I like mince this garlic and I put it in my ferment, it's going to float all the little garlic pieces might float, and same thing with the herbs. And I like to just give everything a rough chop because it's more likely to stay submerged. And if you didn't know, you need everything submerged when you ferment something, because if not, it will grow mold if it's exposed to the air. So this is the Cuban oregano. I'm just going to be leaving these leaves whole and just throwing them in there. And then I need oak leaves because they have tannins in them. You can also use bay leaves or I think grape leaves too, but I have oak leaves. And the tannins help to keep the crunch in your ferment. It's not necessary, but if it's something that you can add to help it stay crunchier. And the garlic chive, same with that. I'm just going to give it a rough chop and throw it all in there. You can literally add whatever you want. If you want it to be like hot, you could add hot peppers, and you could add onions. You could add whatever you want to your ferment. It's really versatile. And basically what I have to do is just weigh out my jar. This is a 1/2 gallon jar, so I'm going to weigh it out and I'm going to zero it. I'm going to zero the scale out, and then I'm going to start packing in the stuff. You could put all your like herbs and stuff in the bottom and then just put in the green beans, but it doesn't matter. You can do it however you want. I like to like just layer it so it's a little bit better distributed. But at the end of the day, it's going to sit in there for so long that the flavors like are all going to mingle regardless of where it is. So I'm packing that all in, and I have to like squish it in, and I don't really like doing that on the scale because I feel like it can mess up the scale to be like pushing on it, you know. And yeah, just packing it in, because now we need to add our water. So to add our water, I'm going to put this back on the scale, and I'm just going to pour our water in. You can see it's 695 now. That's in grams. So I'm going to put our water in, and we're going to see how much the contents, so the food and the water, we're going to find out how much that all weighs in total. This is boiled water. I like use tap water and I boil it, but you can also use distilled water. It basically just can't have like chlorine in it. Okay, so here is how you do the math. So you need the weight of the food and the water all mixed together. So that's 1783. And then I'm going to multiply that by the percentage I want, which is 3.5. You press percent and then you press equal and you get 62 grams. So that's how much salt I need to add. You can do more or less salt. Depending on what you're fermenting, you need a certain amount of salt because some things mold more easily. But I like 3.5% or like 3% for green beans. And for like cabbage, I do like 2 to 2.5%. So I'm just going to weigh out the salt. This is pink Himalayan salt. I get it at Costco, like really cheap, but you can use sea salt or, you know, any other natural salt that does not have iodine in it or like any other additives. And then basically I'm just going to pour some of the water out. I always spill when I do this, but it's fine if you spill like a little bit of water. It's not a big deal. And I'm basically just taking some of the water out because I need to dissolve the salt in the water. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like not all of it's going to dissolve because it is a lot of salt, and I just mix it up, and whatever doesn't dissolve, I just put it into the jar and it'll dissolve over the next few hours. It's just quicker if you agitate it. So yeah, just mixing that all up, and it turns the water so pink from the pink Himalayan salt. And then we're just going to be adding that water back into our jar. So you could see there was a lot of water in there already. So I just honestly took out a little bit of the water, and I just scooped that salt back in there and added it in there. And these are weck jar lids. Here I'm checking to see if it'll fit. I've had issues where I've had these lids get stuck in the jar. So I love weck jars for canning, but you can also use their lids because they're all glass. You can use them for fermenting, and I like that they come in different sizes. So if you're using like, you know, depending on your size jar, you can find which lid works for it. And here we go. I just closed it all up, sealed it, and I put this pan underneath because it might spill. And then this is how you burp it. You want to do this like at least every day for the first like week of fermenting. and you just open and close it again. And you can see all the bubbles. You can see there's like some bubbles in there, but now as I move the jar and I twist it around, you can see how all these bubbles come out. And that's how you know it's fermenting. So if there's no bubbles in your ferment, then that's not a good sign. But it's really simple. I haven't had a ferment go bad on me. I've only had it happen where it's like if you have a ferment that's like high in sugar, you might get a lot of yeast growing on it, which is not the best. But yeah, that's how you ferment your green beans. And thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.